My name's Etienne Fang. I lead Insights platform at Uber. We're part of the UX research team, which is within the design organization. And I'm here to talk to you today about our experience in building Uber's first Insights platform, and to also talk to you about why the power of Insights really lies in sharing rather than in silos. So the vision for the Insights platform has been to increase the impact of Insights globally and cross-functionally to inspire and inform Uber's priorities. Now, this vision comes from our experience working with a large corporation in which individuals and teams are working so hard to surface important insights day in and day out. However, they don't get shared enough broadly in order to make a greater difference than they can. Before we get started, I'd love to ask you a few questions to see if we share some common challenges. All right? So go like this if you agree with any of these questions. So do you and your teams want to make an impact with your work? I won't bias your responses, I'm sorry. Do you feel overwhelmed by the information, regardless of the size of your company? Okay, I just saw one hand of one of those. I'm not sure what that means. And is there a lack of priority despite all of this information? All right, great. Maybe not so great, because we do share these challenges at Uber. So today I'm going to take you through our challenge, what we did, what we created, and also some principles to lead by, coming from our learnings. So Uber is a big place. Raise your hand if you've ever used an Uber service of some kind. Okay, that's good. So we have multiple businesses. We're in 700 cities around the world. We operate in rideshare, food delivery, freight, autonomous vehicles, transit, micromobility, helicopters, to name a few. So around the world, our teams are constantly learning new things to make Uber better. So we want to be sure that these insights could be easily shared so that a team in Mumbai does not waste time relearning something a team in Mexico City learned the other day or the other year. But unfortunately, these insights were not being shared. Employees at Uber felt that insights were hard to find. You had to kind of know the right person to talk to the right person. They weren't necessarily comprehensive. We're an SF-based company. Oftentimes, insights were very locally based, and we're in 700 cities, so that becomes a challenge, right? Not everything is based in San Francisco. And geographically, it was quite siloed, as well as sometimes in scope. And insights were inconsistent in terms of levels of granularity. They ranged anywhere from 2 words to several paragraphs. And therefore, it resulted in people needing to duplicate efforts in order to find something that another team or other teams had previously learned. And teams creating all sorts of workarounds, like putting things into various documents, spreadsheets, team wikis at their best. And at their worst, just not sharing at all, just running really quickly all the time, not necessarily having time to consolidate and broadly share. So I think we probably all felt that. But before I go further, let me explain how we define an insight. It's an important learning about people, our applications, and the world that help us make an informed decision about a project, program, or roadmap. You might have different definitions of insights, but this is the one that we operate on. And why are insights so darn important? Because access to the right insights can make or break a project. You might be working on the right problem or the wrong problem. We've talked about this a little bit in workshops yesterday. So here's an example of an insight from UX research, our team. Actually, we worked on this project about 1.5 years ago, and I was here in London doing some of this fun research all over town. So our highest value riders in London, Sydney, and New York City feel that discounts alone do not inspire true loyalty because they want to feel recognized by Uber. Now, this insight identified that our riders in more mature markets seek recognition beyond just monetary rewards, discounts, et cetera. And this insight on riders was foundational to the rider loyalty program. We have something now called Uber Rewards, which has been around for about a year. Hopefully you all use it. And it includes benefits that go beyond discounts, et cetera, to include things like priority customer support, upgrades, and flexible cancellations. So this insight, while seemingly simple, actually fundamentally changed the way the team was thinking about incentives. So what we did, I was hired into Uber to solve this problem of capturing and sharing insights across the product organization. And this project originally envisioned a technical solution, an insights repository. However, as we worked, we quickly realized that even though a piece of software is very important and vital to this solution, it's only one component of it. And that we realized that insights are far more than just bits of information, but they're actually about applied knowledge created by people in their networks and not in isolation. So at some companies, there's a divide between more science-based disciplines of research, such as UX research, data science, market research, and they're viewed as much more strategic, forward-looking, while other more operationally derived insights coming from things like customer support, regional operations, are seen as tactical. And therefore, there's no reason, and they're put into two separate categories with not a lot of reason to even cooperate or collaborate between the two. Fortunately, we don't feel that way at Uber. So our first step was to establish a unified insights taxonomy. The reason we needed to do this was because insights were coming from all these different sources, right? Quant, qual, field, et cetera. And we needed to define a unified insight structure for us all to use that was simple. And I had the fun task within my first month at work reviewing over 800 insights that had been previously submitted for the previous year's round of technical planning. And I noticed a couple of key things. One was that insights were varying in levels of granularity, and therefore it was really difficult to compare. And that facts were often represented without any kind of context or explanation for why it's important. And then there were a lot of tactical recommendations guised as insights, which are super important. However, they didn't address kind of some of the larger opportunities that could be fixed or addressed. And from this analysis, we established the insights taxonomy, striving for simplicity, actionability, and consistency. And so our insights taxonomy is comprised of three key parts. The insight statement, which is a succinct statement based on learnings. Facts, which include data points, anecdotes, observations that support this insight statement. And opportunities, so description of recommended actions. Now let's double click on what the insight statement is. So it's comprised of a simple madlibs exercise. Hopefully you've all played madlibs. It was my favorite exercise when I was a kid. So who, where, what, and why. So the who explains the specific user that this finding was based on, as specific as you can get. The where explains where this learning came from, not just a general place, but specifically which markets, which cities, et cetera, was this based on, or mega regions. And the what explains this situation, observed, occurrence, et cetera, that might be notable, which is positive, or problematic, so negative. And the why explains the assumed reason for this. And from our audit of all those insights, the why was the thing that was most commonly missing. And it's also the one that's most important, as well as most difficult to articulate. So here we have an insight before and after an insight this insight taxonomy was applied. And this is from the wild at Uber. It was actually written by a local operations team in Cairo based on one of our newer products, Uber Bus. So it says, some Uber bus drivers stop receiving requests 1 hour before their shift ends so they can finish on time. Okay, that's interesting, really solid. Want to learn more. And if we apply the insights taxonomy, in which you might see this insight in isolation, it reads, Uber bus drivers in Cairo end up working longer than their scheduled shift because they still receive requests 20 to 30 minutes before their shift ends, which can take more than an hour to complete. So now, if you and I were on the same team and we were seeing this for the first time, what might you do? How might you take action from a product perspective? Or from a marketing perspective? Or from an operational perspective? So we feel that by clearly articulating the insight itself and an assumed why based on learnings, you're more quickly able to understand why this is important as opposed to a mere fact unto itself. All right, so we next sought to understand our users' needs and motivations. Why? Because we're researchers. We love to do this. But this was our internal team. So we conducted several rounds of one-on-one user research to really understand what their needs and wants were, and then have been following up with iterative user research now that we have our product and program. So we determined there were two key cohorts. Broadly speaking, insight creators, as well as insight consumers. Insight creators create insights. They generate them with roles from UX research, market research, data science, strategy, and planning. And insight consumers are ones who might make decisions based on insights, like product management, marketing, regional managers. So from our research, broadly, we learned that insights creators want their insights to be seen and used and applied appropriately and responsibly, meaning not taken out of context, not being reapplied or rewritten in some way. And insights consumers need quality insights in order to understand the scope of their problem in order to make informed decisions. Therefore, they need to be trustworthy and sourceable. So we asked these users within our company about their workflows in terms of creating insights, gathering them, and how they were discovering them, and as well as their pain points and some of their needs and wants for an insights database. Now, these findings drove our product roadmap and as well as our program plan. And based on these findings, we developed our overall strategy. So we built our strategy on three inextricable components. The first being to empower a cross-functional global insights network through partners. The second piece around establishing processes to generate and leverage insights, as well as to identify gaps and to inform our priorities. And then thirdly, to enable access of insights through a self-serve open tool within the company. Now, we needed to respect all three parts of this relationship in order to make sure things were actionable and self-sustaining. So next, we identified these partners and piloted some processes. And since this was our first cross-functional kind of tool for insights gathering of its kind at Uber, we needed to establish the process as well. So our lucky team of about 100 UX researchers dutifully, and thank you all, did 2 rounds of what we called insights lookbacks. And this was without a tool at all. This was while the tool was still just a concept. We did this through spreadsheets. So we realized we piloted a process without a tool. And then we defined this process after we had piloted it and established this insights network and piloted this process with a bunch of teams outside of our own. And we really needed to identify people who shared a common belief in knowledge sharing. So that was a fun part, and it included all of those functions you see there. So quite diverse. So by setting out to create a tool that facilitates dynamic and sustained interaction between insights creators and insights consumers, we actually created something much richer than a static repository. So we decided to call it kaleidoscope. And where a telescope might offer a long, narrow view through a single view, and a microscope, a short micro view, a kaleidoscope triangulates views with creating new patterns. And it's through seeing and making sense of these changing patterns that we can perceive new images and perceive new solutions. So we created an MVP, and it looked something like this, with using existing software. The functionality was quite limited to being about searching and submitting. And however, once you got onto the site, you saw all the messy guts, and it was a little bit difficult to navigate. However, we onboarded a bunch of people, and they were really excited, so this gave us a ton of hope. But it was a bit of an ugly duckling. But once we created this clunky MVP, something really awesome happened. We got our own design and engineering team excited. And through some begged and borrowed help, we created a V2, a version 2 of Kaleidoscope. And so I'm going to show you a version of this video that we shared at a global all-hands meeting. Good sound system in here. I appreciate that. Thank you. So after our V2 went live and leadership saw the value of what we were providing, we were able to secure a fantastic engineering and design team who've been able to create a custom backend in order to support our intended user experience. So now you can discover insights through featured lists of Uber's priorities. You can also share and submit insights with linked sources of documentation. You can also search and filter by topics, mega regions, functions, and a whole bunch of other things. You can also cite insights based on unique insight IDs for PRDs, product requirement documents, or creative briefs. There's author pages in which you can check out an individual insights creator's work, as well as follow up with them for collaboration. And then there's narratives to check out latest, greatest projects about recent launches and insights initiatives around the company. And we're continuing to build this out. So we've learned a lot from leading Uber's Insights platform. And our successes, as well as our challenges, continue to inform our operating principles. And so I'm going to share a few of these for you to consider. Connect systems rather than supersede. So each team and sub-team that we talked to had its own system of organizing insights and sharing them with their stakeholders. Some systems were quite mature, and some systems were just being developed. Many groups asked if they should override their system with the one that we were building, while others reluctantly refused because they felt that their own system was sufficient and also challenging enough to maintain. So I used the mental model of connecting strings of Christmas lights. Each team is already shining bright in their own areas, and the most value we can provide is by connecting these nodes to create a network that truly intersects. So never underestimate the power of connection. Context and interaction are key to collaboration. So while our focus has been to create a tool, we learned very early on that what users seeked was real-world connection, and for people exploring similar topics around the world. And in some user studies, people wanted to find subject matter experts to talk to and to work with. And so Context comes in the form of having robust supporting documentation, experts to follow up with, and also the assurance that the information is vetted. We currently review each and every insight. Our insights analyst does this for quality and consistency. And we learned that having insight around insights, having context around insights, gives contributors a sense of trust, as well as a sense that their information isn't going to be abused or misinterpreted, taken out of context. Triangulating insights drives focus and perspective. So deep knowledge on a particular user, domain, geographical region through a single lens is highly valuable and actionable. However, being able to synthesize that deep knowledge from across functions and across regions provides a holistic perspective on more broadly addressable opportunities. Finding these commonly shared goals and understanding the regional nuances that exist can only be done when knowledge is triangulated and compared and contrasted. Validation and visible outcomes help sustain engagement. So building new organizational habits is really difficult. We probably have all experienced this in some way or another, particularly at a really fast-paced, globally distributed place like Uber. So asking people to share insights in an ongoing way really requires reciprocity in the form of feedback from their peers and leaders. So they want to know that their work is being actioned upon and that they're validated through their work. So our team is currently working on features to enable social engagement. And by directly citing insights, bodies of work, as well as authors, we are validating the hard work of these contributors, as well as creating a currency system for these insights. People want to share. People want their work to be seen, used, and reapplied. And at the end of the day, everyone wants to see how their work is making an impact on the decisions of the company. These last two principles come from a fantastic book called 77 Things, written by our VP of Design, Michael Goff. And this one is actually more a fact of just working at Uber, because we really sit closely together. It's a little crowded sometimes. So the person sitting next to you solved that problem last week. And it's just perhaps a fact. However, so we work on similar common problems across the company, as new and novel as some may be. So inspire your teams to collaborate, communicate, and actually talk with one another. If people know what others are working on, they're able to share their perspectives, their previous solutions, and build and continue to create and co-create. Say we, not me. So we need to be collectively empowered and aligned. Claiming credit, defending one's turf, and asserting your individual goals over that of the team's fights against your overall team goals. So I want to thank Hallie Saber, who's sitting right here in the front, our Insights Platform program manager, without whom Kaleidoscope and Insights Platform wouldn't exist. And I also want to thank a whole team of contributors and collaborators, but I realize this is not the Oscars, so, or maybe it is. So Isabel Elias, who's our Insights analyst, Michael Goff, who's our VP of Design, as well as Manik Gupta, who's our Chief Product Officer, who continue to support our team as well as our product itself. Charlie and Stephanie from Design, as well as Chris, and Ben from Engineering. They're our team that make this happen, and for that, I am super grateful. I'm up here on stage, but it's really the collective we, not just that team even, but the collective Insights network that's making this happen. So what is the future of Insights at Uber? While, as you know, this project originally envisioned this technical solution, an Insights repository, a tool, we continue to learn, and as we continue to increase the impact of Insights, we are constantly reminded of the importance of partners and processes, and how important they are in order to enable breakthrough insights, what we're now calling silver bullet insights at Uber. And we can accomplish pretty much anything we put our minds to with a diverse team of insights-driven, connected, and motivated people. So that's why sharing is better than silos. Thank you.
Etienne, thank you very, very much. Well, personally, as somebody who has got a team who are at MVP stage on our Insight repository, was reassuring and really useful. Thank you, especially what you were talking about partners, process, and tools. I have a ton of questions for you. I'm not going to hog that, though, because already people have questions for you. They know the game. So we're going to go to questions.
Great.
If you can share your name and question, that'd be great.
I'm Azadeh, and I want to know, how did you build it? So you built an awesome tool, but how did you build it? Did you do the design thinking while you created the tool? So how did you do? Did you go to the stakeholders, ask questions, did the insights and so on? Did you look at the product as an external product, or how did you do that?
That's a great question. Since we were very solution-focused, within that first month, we were already doing a buy versus build analysis in terms of, do we build this, do we buy it? And so hopefully this story illustrated for you the importance of just building something, or creating an MVP. I won't say we built it, so that might be a bit of a cheat. We had to demonstrate through a proof of concept that this was valuable. So what we did was we used existing software to do this. And that ugly duckling example I showed you, where once the idea and the content was really enthralling and very engaging. However, the user experience was really difficult and very compromised. From that, we were able to then build a more ideal product, the front end, while maintaining the existing back end. And then without having to reveal the messy innards once you kind of got into the software itself.
So, sorry, I insist to get my answer, but I'm asking that if you go to person by person gathering inside the company and make that product, or it was order from top down saying that, okay, we will do this. Is it very core team, minimum of people deciding about the tool, or how was it?
Yeah, there was an assembled cross-functional team that had never really worked together before. So I come from UX research. There was someone from tech strategy, someone from product operations. So that idea of research and operational insights coming together was sort of our DNA. Our chief evangelist and supporter was our chief product officer. And so there was an expectation that we would definitely build something. And through knowing that we were going to create something, we did it the right way. Interestingly, the cross-functional partners were really looking to myself, later Hallie, who joined, to understand how best to go about this process. So we did it in a user-centered way. We could have just said, here's the off-the-shelf software, let's all start putting our insights in, let's start using it. But we actually wanted to understand what the user needs were, and these users happen to be our internal employees.
Great, thank you
Hopefully
very much.
that answers your question.
Next question. If we can go to this gentleman here. Put your hand up so I can see who else might be next. Okay.
Hi. Sorry, I'm Willie. How did you measure success for this product? Because I guess ultimately, at the end of this, what you really want is to be able to tell product managers that they don't have any excuse anymore as to why they got their priorities wrong or right.
Yeah. So that continues to be a challenge. We have our analytics. We see that there is, good visits per week, et cetera. I think what is most reassuring and reaffirming is when we talk to teams and they are already using Kaleidoscope. Also, when we see insights being directly cited and people being directly followed up with, to continue to learn more. So what we wanted to prevent was someone just going in there, picking something, and plopping it into something, be it a brief, a product requirements document, et cetera. What we wanted was for people, and what we continue to want, is that loop to be a lot shorter, first of all, so to make things much more efficient, not to repeat entire studies, which we're seeing being done, and perhaps still continue to happen today. But what we want to do is decrease that duplicated effort that was happening, and for people to seek information, understand it, seek out the subject matter expert, be able to consult with them, understand a bit more, and then to make informed decisions, whether it's to learn more, which actually happens, that's the identifying the gaps piece, or just to say, hey, we actually learned this in Brazil. Let's apply that to Colombia, or something like that. Or let's do a comparison between the two to see if that actually holds true.
Super, thank you. We have time for one more genuinely quick question. If you think it's a long question, no, but a quick one. You were straight up there. So I'll pass it to you.
This is very quick. How many UX researchers work within Uber globally?
Oh, that's a good question. You may have seen the news. We just experienced a big layoff. And so our team at its largest was about 110-ish people, and we were globally distributed with many in San Francisco, but around the world. Now we're about 50. So it's actually quite interesting, and unfortunately a sad part of the benefits of this Insights repository, Kaleidoscope, is while doing these Insights lookbacks that we've been conducting within our teams over the last now 3-4 halves of the year, 2 planning cycles, we've managed to preserve the work of individual contributors who are no longer with us. While that's really sad, and but I think what's great about that is that it continues to honor and make visible the hard work that these people did. And also to make it so that, it's findable and people can build upon it. So in that way, their work is truly valued and respected.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So one more time, thank you, Etienne, for a really, really insightful talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.